Okay, everybody, this is Mars Soperton. Welcome to another edition of the Fighting Peaches, where we go over all things in college athletics within the state of Georgia. And this episode is dedicated to Georgia Southern football, which begins its season very, very soon. We're going to preview all things Eagles over the next 10 to 15 minutes. But as always, if you want to follow everything that we're doing, head to the mothership, to sportsinquirer.net, premier site for news and notes in the world of sports. You can also go to our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under Sports Inquirer. That's all one word. Just do a search on there. You'll find our content. And then finally, subscribe to us on our audio and video content providers such as YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and iTunes. Do a search for us there under Sports Inquirer, and you'll be able to find everything that we have going on. We're doing previews of various teams in the Sun Belt Conference in the Fighting Peaches over the next few days, but we'll have to focus on Georgia Southern, which is one of the premier football programs in the state of Georgia. Just look up the statistics. And last year they had another strong campaign. Won 8 games last season, 4 conference victories. They concluded the season with a very dominant victory over Louisiana Tech in the New Orleans Bowl. Won that contest 38-3. So it was a very solid campaign for Georgia Southern in Statesboro. Here's head coach Chad Lunsford on last season.
I've been told a lot, in 20, 30 years, we're going to look back on this and really appreciate it. I don't know how much more I can appreciate it because last year was something that nobody had a playbook for. As a coach, you're always trying to look for those angles. You're always trying to look for the strategy, the competitive advantage, and all that type of stuff. But when it came down to it, we had a bunch of guys that made up their mind that, they wanted to play ball, and they wanted to do a great job for Georgia Southern. Again, I spoke on it. 5 losses at Georgia Southern is way too many. That's not our standard. However, the things that we overcame, the adversity that we were able to, kind of go through and kind of continue to build as a team. Those are things that, are really invaluable that a lot of people won't look at, but there will be great memories that we'll be able to look back on and go, man, we did this. We were one of 2 football teams to play 13 games and then be able to end it with a championship in New Orleans. That's something that we'll always remember.
So it's a very solid year under all of the conditions that we all dealt with the pandemic, but especially the football teams with everything that they had to deal with in the fall of 2020. So now the Eagles are back, and you look at we'll break down the schedule, but you have to figure that they have a chance to finish in the top half of the Sun Belt East during division and maybe even contend with Coastal and Appalachian State. And before we get to that, let's break down the roster and see what they have going on. We'll start the offensive end. Biggest thing, who is going to be the starting quarterback? Looks like Georgia Tech transfer James Graham has the inside track to be the starter for the team at quarterback. This was what Chad Lunsford was saying at the media days that we were able to participate in earlier in the summer. But here he is on James Graham and his acclamation into the Eagles program.
And, to talk about James Graham, James Graham is a guy that we definitely want on our football team, and he's a guy that can make a difference for us. There were some adjustments coming from Georgia Tech to Georgia Southern. There were some things that our program is a little bit different, and, he had to get adjusted to that. So during the spring, there was a few things that we just wanted to make sure that we took care of. We wanted to make sure he was going to be good academically as well. He has not gotten enough invested reps at the quarterback position as of now. So we felt like the best thing to do right now was move him to the wide receiver spot to give us an opportunity to get him on the field. So that's where we're at on it.
Now, Georgia Southern did have a very solid offense last year. They had 18 plays of 40 or more yards, which was 3rd in the Sun Belt Conference last year. They're returning several strong running backs, including J.D. King. He played in 7 contests last year, had 625 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns, but then in the season, he tore his ACL. He was still named second team all-conference, or he was received that on, or he's second in the team in rushing, but despite that ACL tear. But he's now rehabbed, and he's back after missing those final 6 games of the season for the Eagles. Here he is on the rehab from that knee injury.
It's been amazing. It just helped me grow as a man and as a football player. It helped me develop my mental game, as in establishing myself as a leader on the field. It was just a win-win situation because I got to come back and play another year and be with the team and, try to win that championship we all want.
And the other running backs that will be in the rotation for the Eagles include Logan Wright, Gerald Green, and Tulane transfer Amari Jones. So Chad Lunsford and Eagles have a lot to work with as far as the backfield goes to help in the new starting quarterback. Here is Lunsford on the running backs.
Sure, we're a running football team, and lots of times when you see us on the field, we're going to have up to 3 running backs on the field at a time, maybe more. We do have a good problem. We have a room at the running back position that is full of good football players. J.D. King and Logan Wright are obviously guys that have been established at Georgia Southern, but we got some young guys in Gerald Green and Jalen White, and then we also have a transfer from Tulane and Amari Jones that I think bring a lot of different things to the table for us as an offense. But the one great thing about Georgia Southern is we're going to run the football, so there'll be enough carries to go around for our guys for sure.
And then 4 offensive linemen also returned to the team as far as starters from last year, so that'll benefit them greatly. Now, defensively, they gave up 20.8 points per game last season, and the highlight of that was their rushing defense, which they led the conference in. They led the conference also in third down defense. So the Eagles have a very solid defensive unit returning. All conference preseason defensive back Derek Canton, he will be a big part of that unit. Also, 60-year senior Todd Bradley-Glenn, the inside linebacker, played all 13 contests last year. Starting 4 of them had 24 tackles, including 1.5 tackles for loss. So you'll see his role increase in the Eagles defense. Here is Bradley-Glenn on leading that Eagles defense and looking to build on what they did well last year.
I feel good. I always feel like I was in a leadership role, even when I was out, mentoring the young guys and stuff like that, being injured. But I'm ready to take it on and, kind of be the guy in the middle of defense and help everybody out. But, it's a role I embrace, especially inside my room, with a lot of young guys in the room and a lot of young guys coming in on the team, on the defense. A lot of them, look up to me and stuff like that, so I try to lead them the right way.
Yeah, if you look at the schedule, they start with Gardner-Webb at home, at Florida Atlantic, and then at Arkansas. There's a possibility they can win 2 out of those 3 contests, maybe even all 3. You never know. Maybe Arkansas improvements last year in the SEC, but that could be a game that the Georgia Southern can compete in very well. Moving to into conference, which is very important for them. First conference match is at home against Louisiana. I think that contest sets the tone for the rest of the season. And you look at the bookends of the conference schedule. They host Louisiana, and then they visit Appalachian State, one of their biggest rivals. Old school rivalry. I know Georgia State has become a big rival over the past 10 years or so. But if you go further back, if you're listening from the 90s, and even before Georgia State had a football program in the 90s and even the early 2000s, that was the big rivalry for them. But Louisiana and Appalachian State, Louisiana's you would look at as the prohibitive favorite to win the West. Appalachian State is going to be probably one of the top teams in the East. If they're able to win those contests, they put themselves in a very solid position to be at the top of the Sun Belt Conference standings. They also get Coastal Carolina and Georgia State at home. Win one of those 2 contests, split those or win both of them, they'll also put themselves in a very good spot to be in the championship game. So Georgia Southern looks like a team that has got a winning record last year overall, 4-4 in conference. But that bowl win in the New Orleans Bowl against Louisiana Tech, and what they return on both sides of the ball looks like they can be a really solid team. The biggest question is the starting quarterback. And as we record this show, James Graham looks to be the incumbent or looks to be the starter for the team, but that can change over time. We will see. And that concludes our preview of Georgia Southern football. Thanks for listening. As always, to follow everything that we're doing, head to the mothership, thesportsinquirer.net. You can also go to our social media platforms on Twitter and Instagram under Sports Inquirer. And finally, follow us on our social media, as I said, Sports Inquirer for Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. But then also go to our audio and video content providers such as YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and iTunes. Until next time, good fight, good night, and be safe.